Summer's over, dieting's over. Time for most of us to jump on a bulk. Something like that.
Yeah. You've been recorded, by the way.
Yes. I wish that. Hello everybody, time for another video. So summer's coming to an end now, as we can all tell from the weather. So that means for a lot of us the summer shredding's over and it's time to jump on a bulking diet. So these are the months where you eat more calories, all with the goal of building as much muscle mass as possible. So a bulking phase then, as I've said, means that you're in a caloric surplus. This means that you're consuming more calories than you need to survive during the day. This is because your body builds muscle optimally when it's in a caloric surplus. So if you think of it this way, if you want to build muscle, you need to give your body everything it possibly needs in order to build muscle. And so that's why you do it. So you combine that along with heavy weight training typically throughout the winter months to build muscle. So it's good to get in your head really that bulking and cutting is the way to achieve the physique that you want a lot of the time. Because a lot of the people, they kind of get lost in trying to look ripped whilst building as much muscle as possible. So they tend to diet at the same time as trying to build muscle, whereas the body just doesn't work like that. You're really either going to build muscle and build a bit of fat as well, or you need to be in a cutting state whereby you're losing fat and hopefully not losing as much muscle. So that's why a bulking and cutting phase is better for a lot of people. So the goal of bulking then is to build as much muscle as possible during those winter months, but at the same time, because you're in a caloric surplus, you want to be limiting the amount of fat your body puts on, because no one wants to dirty bulk and get really fat at the same time, because it's just not good. Like when you come to dieting, you'll have to lose so much fat, it just won't be worth it. So you need to be watchful of your calories so that you're in just about the right surplus to build muscle, but you don't want to put on too much fat as well. So then, that leads on nicely to bulking nutrition. So essentially, when you're bulking, as I've said, you need to be eating more calories than your maintenance level. You can work out your maintenance level on, there's many online calculators, I'll put a link to one in the description, but they should be like a little guideline for you, but they're never going to be quite right, so they will need to be tweaked occasionally. But I'd always suggest going about 10% to 15% above that level for your bulking diet. So within those calories, you want to firstly make sure that you're consuming enough protein, because obviously protein is the macronutrient which forms muscle, so you need to be making sure you're consuming enough of that. During a bulking phase, it's usually around about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight you should be consuming. I mean, this typically varies, but you can tweak it as you go along. Then with the rest of your calories, you want to split it between your carbs and your fats. Now I tend to flexible diet, so I eat whatever I want really, as long as it fits into my calories for the day. And so on training days I like to keep carbs quite high to give me a lot of energy, and then my fat's low. So that's my personal preference, but you can do whatever you want. So to hit your protein goal, you want to have a good protein source with every meal throughout the day, and then you also want to supplement that with whey protein and high protein snacks. So I'll have about 5 or 6 eggs for breakfast. Then for lunch I'll have like chicken breast with broccoli and rice, and then for dinner I'll have something similar, so a big meat sauce along with that. And then throughout the day I'll snack on nuts, meats, and I'll have protein shakes. So that's how you want to hit your protein. When it comes to carbohydrates, the best carbohydrates are the slower digesting ones, so brown rice, brown pasta, just because they give you a slower release of energy, and they also keep your insulin levels nice and low, which is beneficial for muscle growth as well. But you might want to have a fast digesting carbohydrate source after your workout, because that gives a nice spike to those insulin levels, which helps build some muscle. And then your fat sources really want to be coming from the fats from your meats. So say if you're eating a steak, there's quite a bit of fat in there, or chicken, the skin, there's fat there. And from sources like nuts, avocado, eggs have got good fats in. That's where you want to be getting your fats from really. Essentially, don't be eating deep fat fried burgers and chips. It's not what you want. So now then, when you're bulking, how do you want to be training? So you essentially want to be concentrating on the big heavy compound movements. So there's things like squats, bench press, shoulder press, pull-ups, all those big movements that utilise the most amount of muscle fibres. And you want to be going heavy and you want to be using, what's the word for it?
Is this a cut, is it, this one?
Yes. So with those heavy compound movements, you want to be using progressive overload. So this means that you're either getting stronger by lifting heavier weights or you're doing a high volume over time. This is a principle that most people are familiar with in the gym because they just want to lift heavier weights, but it's actually one of the key ways to build muscle. Then outside of that core training program, you want to add in some isolation movements just to really finish those muscles off. So at the end of a pull day or something like that, you'll want to do some isolation movements for the biceps, but you should be focusing it on those heavy compound movements like deadlifts, pull-ups and rows. So what's the best training split for a bulking diet? Well, I would suggest for a natural bodybuilder, a push-pull split is optimal, because this means that you're training each muscles with a high intensity, but you can also keep the frequency so that you can train each muscle group twice a week. So nowadays people are believing that this is the best method, but really it's whatever you prefer. If you prefer doing a bro split of chest, shoulders, arms, legs days, then you can do that. But as long as you're training hard and you're using progressive overload and doing heavy compound movements, then you should be building muscle.
So is compound movements better to build muscle than isolation movements then?
Yeah, because you're working not just one muscle, but you're working three. And think of it this way as well, if you're doing bench press, you're lifting 100 kg, whereas flies, you're doing like 30 kg.
If that.
So that additional stress on the body is what forces your body to grow and adapt.
Make gains.
Make gains. So that's it then really. So my overall tips with bulking would be, don't go crazy on your diet. You know, everyone wants to enjoy a bulk and they see it as they can eat whatever they want, but you really should be keeping an eye on it because you don't want to put on too much fat. But the overall key really is just to stay consistent. Be consistent with your nutrition, be consistent with your training over those months, and you'll definitely build all that muscle that you want ready to cut for next summer. Right, I hope that video was informative for you and helps you with your bulking diet. If you need any more help, I've wrote a blog post on it which is in the description. But yeah, if you like the video, like, follow, subscribe us, and we'll see you soon.